Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Ava Bikini Bottom sewing tutorial. In the first half of the sewing tutorial, we finished our self pieces. Before we get started on this, you're going to want to go ahead and repeat all the same steps in the first video on your lining pieces as well. And then we're going to go ahead, once you have your lining pieces finished, you're going to go ahead and place your lining inside of your self pieces so that they're right sides together. And we're going to go ahead and pin the waist opening together. Make sure that you're pinning the seam allowances in the same direction. The seam allowances should be going toward the side seams on both the front and the back. Now let's go ahead and sew the waist opening. So we're going to jump on over to either your serger or sewing machine, whichever one you have. If you're working on a sewing machine, go ahead and use a zigzag stitch because you want the seam to be able to stretch without the thread snapping. And we're also going to be attaching the elastic at the same time. I'm using an elastic foot. If you're not using an elastic foot, then a good rule of thumb is to make your elastic lengths about 1.5 to 2 inches shorter than your finished seam. So you're going to want to go ahead and measure that first and then see where you land and take about 1.5 to 2 inches off that measurement for your elastic. Once you get to where you started, go ahead and overlap the elastic by about half an inch or so and finish up. Go ahead and remove your pins, and now we're going to flip this right side out. Let's start lining up the seams and pinning the first leg opening in place. Again, you want to make sure that your seam allowances are all headed in the same direction so that they're not twisted once you're finished with the garment. Next, we're going to go ahead and finish our first leg opening. So we're going to be attaching elastic to the lining side of the garment. And again, you just want your elastic length to be about 1.5 to 2 inches shorter than the unfinished leg opening. Repeat on the other leg opening. Now that we have elastic attached to both leg openings, we're going to go ahead and jump on the sewing machine. What we're going to do is we're going to fold back the seam allowance and elastic to the wrong side of the garment and stitch it down with a narrow zigzag stitch. What I like to do is I like to catch the edge of the seam allowance with the zigzag stitch because I just think that makes for a neater finish. Make sure that you're not stretching the elastic as you go. You just want to gently fold over the seam allowance and stitch it down, but you don't want to be stretching anything as you're sewing this step. Once you get to where you started, just secure with a couple of back stitches. Go ahead and repeat those steps on the second leg opening and you're finished. Thanks so much for watching, and you can find the link to this pattern in the description.